Hi. So today I want to do a part two of my first video, which I made about the quote unquote divide between Japanese people and foreign people in Japan. And in my last part, which I'll link up here, I basically talked about how there kind of is an unspoken divide between these two groups. Like, Japanese people in general tend to keep to themselves. And again, I'm not saying this 100%, but because I would say that Japanese people are generally more comfortable with people who have grown up in the same cultural space as they have, who speak the same language as they do fluently. And because foreign people also tend to stick with each other, even if they are from completely different countries, because they have like the common experience of being in a foreign country and having to basically figure everything out from scratch. Because of that, there is a divide between Japanese people and foreign people in Japan, right? And this is only natural. Like, I feel like this happens in any country where there's a lot of immigrants or expats or whatever you want to call them. Um, because, of course, someone who's from another place, another country, is going to gravitate towards others who are quote unquote newbies, or at least people who had to like learn everything from scratch. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Like, it's going to happen, but I do think that this divide is especially strong in Japan. And I think it's to the point where it kind of hurts everyone involved because I feel like we almost create a culture around how different Japanese people are from foreign people. And so, I want to break down a little bit more like why this culture of the divide, so to speak, exists from what I've observed. Again, I'm not like some sociologist or anything. I'm just giving my anecdotal experience. So, of course, if you've observed something else, go, look at it or look at it. I'm tired. Write it in the comments. But what I have noticed is that like both groups tend to um fetishize each other, so to speak. And I think fetishize is the wrong word because that has sort of like a sexual implication, but I'm not going to talk about the sexual side of that today, though it definitely does exist. That's not going to open that can of worms. Today I just want to talk about more of a cultural fetishization that kind of does happen on both sides. Um so maybe I should say more like stereotyping than fetishization. Stereotyping. Um and I'm not saying that every member of either group does this. In fact, I would say the majority don't do either. I think it's sort of this annoying minority on both sides that do this. Um, so, yeah. And I don't want to make this a completely quote unquote both sides issue. Like, I know people get annoyed when people do that to a lot of issues when there is a clear, like, right and wrong side, right? Like, I do want to acknowledge that, like, obviously Japanese people are the people who are more privileged in the situation because they know the native language since birth. They know how to navigate all these systems. They, are lucky enough to walk down the street and not have anyone look at them because they look different. So again, I'm not trying to say that like it's just as hard for Japanese people as it is for foreigners, because it's not. It is harder for foreigners for all of these reasons. Um, but I do still think that like both these groups sort of stereotype the other group, and I think it's a good idea to like not fall into the trap of doing that. So let me explain like some of the stereotypes that I've sort of seen. So let's start with the stereotypes that Japanese people have about foreigners. Now, this is kind of a little more nuanced because obviously, like, foreigners aren't just one group of people from one country. They're people from literally every other country in the world besides Japan, right? So Japanese people obviously would have different stereotypes about people from different countries. And I'm not really going to get into many of the specific stereotypes of every specific country as much as I'm going to get into my experience that a lot of Japanese people like to basically make a foreign person like a spokesperson for their own country. And so as soon as you meet someone, let's say if you're meeting a Japanese person at a bar, a lot of the times they'll just be chill, but sometimes they're going to be like before even asking your name or anything, they'll be like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh God," because at that moment, I know I'm about to have to become an encyclopedia for my own country, which in my case is America, right? Wherever it may be. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this right now. And even though it might be fun for the other person to learn about my country from a real person from that country, I'm like, Jesus, I'm tired. Can't you just talk to me like a normal person? So that's what I've noticed, that like some Japanese people really like to almost see you as the country itself and not as a person. And so they're just going to use you to like ask all these questions about the country, like, ooh, what's like the most popular food in the country? What's your favorite food? And I'm like, when I say that my favorite food is something that's not the most popular food in the country, they're like surprised. They're like, wait, you're American? Your favorite food isn't hamburgers? I'm like, no, it's actually curry. And that's non denominational curry. I like all kinds of curry, whether it's Indian, Japanese, Thai, I don't give a fuck. Curry's good. I usually say curry, which is like my go-to, right? I don't know if I even have a favorite food, but anyway, they're like, it's not hamburgers, it's not pizza, it's not fries. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm a human and I have my own specific tastes. Like, why is that so hard to understand? And then, I don't know. Yeah, they'll just go on and be like, can you tell me this and this and this about your country? And what they probably don't realize is that I have had to do this a million times before with, obviously I'm exaggerating, but a million different people. Like, if it was the first time ever on some, like the first time I was ever going to Japan and I was on some exchange, I'd probably be happy to do it. But like the 10th time, the 100th time, it's like, oh my God, just like look at the Wikipedia page at this point, you know? And also on top of that, it's like, can't we talk about something other than my country? Like, why, like, can't we talk about, like, I don't know, your hobbies or something, or politics if you want to get really spicy? I don't know. Like, why do I always have to become an encyclopedia? So that's my main gripe with like some Japanese people, is that they tend to see foreigners again as a spokesperson and a walking advertisement for their own country. And a lot of the time, that person doesn't even like their own country. That's why they're in Japan in the first place. Okay, so moving on to stereotypes that some foreigners have about Japanese people. Now, I think one of the most like famous stereotypes that foreigners tend to have, or again, some foreigners, not all, but some foreigners tend to have about Japanese people, is that they're all super like majime. And what majime means is like super diligent and super hardworking. And of course, I think a lot of Japanese people are forced to be this way because of Japan's, crazy work culture. But I think a lot of Japanese people really are not like this. And a lot of Japanese people do not have jobs that are so demanding that you're working 60 to 80 hours a week. A lot of them just have normal jobs, if you can believe it. It kind of shows that you haven't actually lived in Japan at all or very long if you don't realize that there's a lot of Japanese people who are not like constantly working, where work is like the only thing in their lives, right? There's like Japanese, I don't know, bartenders who are a little more chill, or other jobs like that don't require, as many hours from like dawn till dusk, right? I'm sure I could give other examples, but again, I just got off work, so I'm, I'm just gonna rest a little. But what really gets like concerning is when like there's foreigners who have been in Japan for multiple years and they still think this about Japanese people, and they still like, they're also the type of foreigner who tends to be like the pick me foreigner, who is like, I need to like work super hard in order to impress Japanese people so that they'll accept me. Meanwhile, most Japanese people don't know who you are. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to live their lives like you do and don't want to be your like sensei or senpai or something. You know what I mean? Like, you're putting this weird, like, be my master thing on them, you know? Anyway, yeah. So, like, if someone's been in the country for like multiple years and they still have this like stereotype that all Japanese people are like super hardworking, super majime, and like they should strive to be that way, I'm like, at that point, you're just intentionally putting on blinders. because if you actually went out and talked to Japanese people, you would learn that a lot of people are not like that at all, and even more are forced to be like that because of the demanding work culture and really hate it and don't want to do that and have no time for anything else in their lives. So it's not something to be like glorified, right? So yeah, those are sort of like the main stereotype. That is the main stereotype that I think a lot of clueless foreigners have about Japanese people. And again, not all foreigners, just some, the more annoying minority. Um, and I'm sure I could list a lot more stereotypes on both sides, but I don't want to make this video too long. So, yeah, in conclusion, I don't know if I have like a real solution for how to break down this divide. I definitely think it's good and healthy to break down the divide because I feel like we shouldn't like intentionally be creating a segregated society. You know what I mean? Like when we don't have to do that. like um but that's not to say that you have to completely blend in and like lose your own cultural identity, or like, you know what I mean, like, or that like foreigners have to completely become Japanese, or that Japanese people have to pretend to be foreign or become foreign, like it's more like do whatever you want, like you know but yeah, and again, I'm not trying to scold anyone or be annoying in that way. I really don't like that. I'm more just saying, like, if you notice yourself thinking these type of stereotypes about either group, whichever group you may be in, be like, hey, maybe this only serves to like strengthen this divide, which really just um puts pain in the hearts of everyone, to be a little dramatic. Yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. I thought I'd have more to add after like weeks of pondering, but honestly, like, I think it's a perfectly good amount because this video would be too long if I went on longer. So, yeah, I hope this was a good video, and give your opinion in the comments about what you think about this divide, what you've experienced if you've been to Japan or live in Japan. Yeah, I'm really eager to hear it. So, until next time, see ya. Bye.